let's even say the big city was Old Trafford, right? So you beat Arsenal at home. You
That means time for wealth management and you.
Conversation on building, managing, and preserving wealth the smart way. From practical financial insights to expert perspectives that help you plan for today and secure tomorrow. This is a show that puts your financial future first. Tune in every Monday from 5:30 p.m. to 5:45 p.m. for this insightful wealth management program because informed decisions lead to lasting wealth. Only on Classic FM 97.3. Good evening and welcome to Classic FM.
That is right. Welcome again to the show. Joining me, Chico, once more as our regular expert on this segment, Mr. Raphael Emenion. Raph, how are you doing today?
very well, Chico. Yourself, how are you?
I'm flying really high.
I don't want to know why.
That's okay. Let's not go there. But I will just drop the fact that Raphael is an Arsenal supporter. And I'm not. We're joined by the head real estate investment ARM, Mr. Olubiyi Adekunbi. Good evening and welcome to Wealth Management in You.
Yeah, good evening, Chico.
All right, Raphael, it's the point where I hand things over to you. We've got a really interesting rundown of where we're taking the show on today's episode. So if you have a friend and anyone who is particularly interested in how to manage their wealth, not just manage it, but managing it and not growing it, that won't work. So we all want to grow our wealth, to make the right decisions. This show brings in experts who can help you. You can go beyond just advising. You can hold your hand and make it happen. Am I right or am I right, Raph?
That's correct, Chico. Absolutely correct. Alrighty. So today we're going to be looking at that interesting opportunity that came about in Nigeria second quarter last year, which is called the Ministry of Finance Real Estate Investment Fund. This initiative was brought about by the Ministry of Finance Incorporated and ARM, who happens to be the fund manager of this initiative. This initiative was to help Nigerians, both local and in the diaspora, to get a house, using a mortgage at 9.75% with a 10% equity contribution. This came alive in April 2025. It has served a couple of Nigerians and it's still serving Nigerians, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So what we're doing this evening is we're speaking to the man that is behind driving this initiative, Mr. Biyi Adekunbi. He's going to be speaking to us more about this initiative and how the rest of us that haven't been able to access this opportunity will be able to do that. So Biyi, I think the first question is, do you want to give us a background? I mean, some of us have heard about it, some of us have experienced it, some of us are currently experiencing it, but do you also want to share a bit of background, for those of us that are hearing about this for the first time, or those of us that are seeking clarity about this initiative?
Well, thank you, Raphael. So the Ministry of Finance Incorporated Real Estate Investment Fund, Mreif, came about as a public-private partnership towards addressing the housing deficit in the country. As it sits today, the housing deficit is currently estimated to be at around 28 million housing units.
Wow.
And it's estimated that it's going to take about 700 housing units annually over the next 20 years to be able to address that. Currently, we are doing less than 50,000, which means that the likelihood of addressing that deficit in the near term is almost not there. So the Ministry of Finance Incorporated took it upon itself to create a new platform to complement existing housing initiatives towards addressing the housing deficit. And what was done what was done was to register a 1 trillion naira program with the Securities and Exchange Commission, with the Securities and Exchange Commission, with the purpose of mobilizing funding from the federal government and the private sector, creating a blended financing approach, which would allow lower interest rates as well as long-term mortgages, together with scaling the funding available for the creation of mortgages. So in a nutshell, that's what Mreif is about. It's a program that has been structured and regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission to mobilize funding and provide low-cost, long-term housing financing solutions to Nigerians.
Fantastic. So the catch is that the mortgage rate is 9.75%.
Absolutely.
Which is very cheap.
Yes.
Single digits, we would say. And then the equity contribution is 10%.
Correct.
Right. So this kicked off April last year, correct?
Correct.
What progress have we made? In almost
so
a
far,
year?
I mean, given in comparison to what's available in the markets, Mreif has achieved quite some stride. As I mentioned, the 1 trillion naira program was registered. 150 billion naira was raised, was contributed by the Ministry of Finance Incorporated into the fund, with an additional 100 billion naira raised from the capital markets from institutional investors, creating a pool of 250 billion naira, providing mortgages at 9.75% for up to 20 years. Now, since inception, well over 1,100 applicants have successfully accessed these funds.
Fantastic.
Through different financial institutions. So the way Mreif works is the funds, while being managed by ARM investment managers, the funds are disbursed through eligible financial institutions, as we call them, and they are basically financial institutions licensed by the Central Bank of Nigeria for the origination of mortgages.
Fantastic.
Can I come in there? When I come in, it's essentially to be that lay person
Absolutely.
who just doesn't get it, and when certain terms are being used, I just want it broken down to me like 6. So, you mentioned the trillion naira, you mentioned 250 billion naira. So what we're saying here is that there is fund available under this Mreif program.
Correct.
That can provide funds for mortgages.
Correct.
Yeah. So if you wanted to purchase a house that was, say, 100 million naira, you need to put down 10 million. That represents 10%, right?
Correct.
And then you will be given a loan of 90 million naira at 9%.
9.75.
9 points. Let's call it 10% then.
Okay.
Let's say 10% interest rate, right? Over 20 up to 20
Up
years.
to 20 years.
To pay back that
to pay back
the
the
loan that
loan.
will be given. So you'll be fronted that loan. You can pay for the house. It's your house.
You can live in it.
Then paying. So you're paying back monthly.
Monthly, yes.
Okay. So who is eligible?
So Mreif is for any Nigerian that has either employed or self-employed in Nigeria or in the diaspora. But the major criteria is you need to be able to demonstrate that you have stable income that you can use to service the mortgage loan. And one of those requirements also is you need to have a property with a valid title, because the mortgage will be issued on a property.
See, this is where this thing gets tricky a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Because then, essentially, Mreif is for second property owners. You don't have a property, essentially, you're not eligible. That's
No.
a requirement. You just
No. So no, you are applying. So the mortgage is for the purchase of a property.
Okay.
You understand? So you have to find a property that you'll be applying for the mortgage on.
Yeah.
So the loan will be provided for the purchase of that property.
Yes.
So you don't need to own a property prior to applying for Mreif.
Okay, but you just said something about putting down the. Talking through the process. So let's take Chico for instance, and let's
Okay.
assume Chico doesn't own any property anywhere.
Yeah.
This is his first purchase. It's for a home.
Mm.
Most people going for mortgages, it's actually for a home,
Purchase.
a home purchase where they're going to live. All right, and so Chico comes and makes an application. He qualifies from the point of view that he's in gainful employment. There's a monthly salary. He can demonstrate the income.
The income, yes.
To essentially pay back. So Chico contacts Mreif. Okay, I found this property. Here's how much it costs. Da 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 da. This is how much I need to loan. Da, da, da. What else am I doing?
Yeah. So at that point, you are almost there, in the sense that you found a property.
Okay.
The property has, like I said, a valid title.
Yes.
Right. You've done your affordability test to see if your income can service a loan.
Yes.
On if you take, for example, like you said, the 90 million naira on the mortgage. At that point, you can approach any of the financial institutions, either primary mortgage banks or commercial banks. And currently, Mreif has onboarded 18 of them to support that process. Once you approach any of the banks with that information, that's the details of the property, that's the description, the title, and all necessary documents, as well as your own personal documents, to verify that, identify yourself as a Nigerian, and all your identification documents, your income verification documents, your pay slips, your bank statements, submitted to the banks, together with any additional document they may require to verify and conduct due diligence. Once the banks verifies that all boxes have been ticked in terms of the details of the property and you as an individual, then they would qualify you and then request for the funds from Mreif. Once Mreif releases the funds to the bank pays the owner of the property you are looking to buy. Once the payment is made, the property owner signs off the documents of the properties, hands you the keys, you take possession, and you continue to pay the bank the monthly repayments for the loan you have taken on the property.
Thanks for breaking it down. Yeah. Rapper, why are you looking at me?
Any age limit? So 20 years is the payback period, right?
Yes, the maximum tenor.
Maximum tenor.
So
if
I'm 60. Do I qualify? So it means by the time I'm done paying, I'll be 80.
So the age limit for Mreif is in line with the NMRC's uniform underwriting standard. So NMRC is the Nigerian's mortgage refinancing company.
Yeah.
And the requirement is that repayment for all loans should be at retirement. So it's tied to your retirement age. So generally it's...
In other words, I'm not eligible then, because I'm going to be 60 in a few weeks.
You look good.
So
You look good for 60.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if I essentially I don't qualify, because retirement age in Nigeria was 65, 66.
65.
Yeah,
I think it's 65.
So it's certain institutions has been set 65, 60, but private institutions can also set the retirement age for their employees. Yeah,
So
but
if it's
typically,
65,
yes, so
it's got 5 years to pay
60,
back.
65, yes,
So if it's 65, it's got 5 years to pay back.
correct.
If the retirement age is 65,
Yes.
it's only got 5 years to pay back.
Absolutely.
If it takes the Mreif loan.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Interesting, meaning whatever a 60-year-old who is approaching a move is paying back, probably for the same property that, say, a 30-year-old is taking, with the 60-year-old doesn't probably be paying more.
More
That's what
than,
we
yes,
pay.
because the shorter the tenor, the more the repayments.
Okay.
So if they're couples, does that create an advantage?
Yes, absolutely.
That's a brilliant question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so couples can apply for Mreif mortgages, and the benefit that provides is, in your own case, if your spouse is much younger, she could be the primary applicant. Given that RAM, then you support with your own income, and also in instances where one applicant's income is unable. So Mreif can provide up to a maximum of 100 million naira. Right. If one applicant's income can't access the 100 million naira, coming in as a couple increases the chances of getting the maximum amount. Yeah.
And is there any insurance? with this?
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's also a requirement for mortgages in the country that some form of insurance is taken on the property and on the mortgage itself. And typically, the insurance package or the premium covers things like damage to the properties, as well as a mortgage insurance which covers instances like job loss or if the applicant is unable to pay for the property due to certain maybe injury or
Sickness
something. Yeah,
or
absolutely.
whatever.
Yeah, so there are insurance packages that covers things like that, and it gives room for.
That are a prerequisite
Yes, it
when
is.
it comes. Yes.
Yeah.
When it comes to making the application
Correct.
itself.
Yeah.
I see.
So you mentioned the process, right? Does that also apply? Is it the same process for those in the diaspora?
Yes, it's the same process. You need to be able to show, prove that you're a Nigerian citizen. You have valid source of income, whether through an employment or you own your own business. And it's basically to go through the same process. You aggregate those documents, the bank will verify them. Once you pass through their risk assessment criteria, the mortgage will be issued.
Okay,
That
sounds
this
good.
is for Nigerians
In the
In the diaspora.
diaspora.
Yes.
But the property needs to be here
The
in
property
Nigeria.
needs to be in Nigeria.
And it's
yes.
any location of your choice.
Any location
Not
of your
necessarily
choice,
Lagos,
yes.
Abuja, Port Harcourt.
It's not restricted.
Can be anywhere.
Across the country.
So I think people would also want to say 100 million is the cap, but again, this is wealth management. I mean, it's an opportunity that you can take. So you might probably look at outskirts, to pick a property,
properties
get the
will be
funds.
cheaper.
Yeah, get the funds, and then at some point you can flip it. At least you have that lump sum to be able to do something, even if you don't want to stay in the outskirts. You get what I mean?
No, not necessarily, because the funds are paid to the property owner.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm saying when you're
Person
done
selling.
paying the mortgage,
Okay, when
it
you've
then
paid it
becomes
off.
fully
Oh, I
yours,
see,
and
I
then you
see.
can
Yeah.
decide to flip. So it's an opportunity. It's a big opportunity that I think that people can actually look at.
Also, there's something. See, I look at the mortgage industry. I can only look at it from where I understand it is in the UK. A number of things you've got, for instance, buy to let, and you've got the buy to live, and terms and conditions are a little bit different. So if it's a buy to let, buy the property, and then you can put tenants in there. So you've bought that property, you've got tenants in there, and typically rent is higher than mortgage payments. So if
So you
you've got
can
a
use that to
property,
offset.
say for instance your mortgage payments are, let's say, £800 a month, but it's a property that can rent for say £2,000 easily. Once it's occupied and you're collecting rent, you're easily paying the mortgage, and you've still got money on top. Would there be any restrictions, for instance, to that? For Mreif, does it have to be a property you want to live in, or can it be a property you want to use for other purposes?
I mean, the primary objective of Mreif is to improve home ownership in the country. While I mean, basically, it's for more and more Nigerians to own their homes for their own use.
Yes, that's the primary objective.
Exactly.
Of it.
Yes. So I mean, if you look at the market today, you see that very few people own their homes, and property ownership is not just for owner occupation, right? Property ownership also helps unlock additional capital. As you said, once you finish paying the mortgage, right, it gives you the value. If you buy it for 100 million over 20 years, definitely the value would have appreciated. It helps you
Absolutely.
unlock capital. So the Emirates' primary objective is to encourage home ownership in the country so that more and more people get to own their homes.
I have a question. What if I need a loan to complete a project in Nigeria, employed in the United States? I think you just answered that, really. The primary objective is to provide homes. You don't live here. So how does that work?
I mean, for people in the diaspora, no. So I think that there are two perspectives to this.
Yes.
If this person has a project in Nigeria they want to finish, Yes, it's permissible to take the MRIF mortgage to buy a property here, because you could also have family. It might not be you occupying it, right? You could have family who you are renting a property for, and you see an opportunity to buy. That's fine. But what I hear from that question is the person wants to take the funds to complete a property. So MRIF only provides funding for completed, or at least 75% completion, where the roof, the external finishing is done, but MRIF wouldn't provide funding, wouldn't provide the mortgage for construction.
So, someone is building already.
Yes.
Building is pretty much, let's say, 80% complete. They're saying the person is fine, it's their home, and the person is trying to then put the completion under a mortgage style thing to take this loan to complete it. The objective, if this goes through, is that the person has a home, which is what the objective of MRIF is. Is it something that could come under MRIF?
Yes, provided the funding is for the mortgage to acquire the home. Yes, it will.
Okay, so there's another aspect to this initiative, right, that speaks to construction finance.
Yeah.
So do you want to speak a little bit on that as well?
So it's not construction finance directly, it's the offtake guarantee
Okay.
product of the scheme. So there are two sides to the housing deficit in the country. There's the demand side and the supply side. The demand side relates to the potential homeowners who are looking to buy properties, right? But of course, for properties to be available to be purchased, there needs to be supply. That's developers building properties. One of the challenges we observed in when MRIF was being put together was the fact that developers struggled to access funding to be able to build those properties. What MRIF sought to do was to provide a cashback guarantee that supports residential developers in accessing construction finance by providing the cashback guarantee as a credit enhancement. Just to clarify, what that means is if a developer is approaching a commercial bank for funding to build a residential estate, one of the requirements from the financial institution will be for the developer to provide evidence of uptake so that they have comfort that there's a line of sight to the repayment for the project, right? In most instances, developers struggle to demonstrate that uptake. MRIF is able to step in, provided that the project meets the funds requirements. MRIF can step in to provide a guarantee to say, when the project is completed, MRIF can buy a certain number of units, creating liquidity for the financial institution to be paid off, right? And it has several benefits in the sense that it gives access to developers to construction finance early on. Most developers wait for off-plan sales, which typically drags the projects, making it more expensive, right? But when they're able to access the funding in bulk, they're able to complete quicker at lower cost and whatnot. So it helps with better planning, and it reduces the pressure on both the developers and then the home buyers that may be pressured to pay off plan on an ongoing basis. So MRIF also supports developers with that as well.
Let me just chop this in
Fantastic.
very quickly because questions are coming in. And if you
Okay.
have any questions you'd like to throw in, you haven't got too much time, you can send them to us via WhatsApp on 0704 1001 973. You're listening to Wealth Management and You, and we're discussing MRIF at the moment. This person says, "Good evening. Can your guest please answer again about the buy to rent? I didn't quite get it straight. Is it a yes or a no? Can you apply for an MRIF loan, purchase a property, and your intention?"
So, like I said, the intention is to improve home ownership, and the property is for your own use. Primarily, the preference would be for you to use it for your own occupation. But of course, there could be instances where you're out of the country, you need where you can come to at a certain point in time. So yes, it's permissible.
Hope that. Go on, Raph.
Are there challenges? I mean, since launch, in Q2 2025? Are there challenges that people have experienced that you would probably like to
Yes,
share?
there's been, I will say one of those challenges has been finding suitable properties. We know what the market has been like recently. Property prices skyrocketing, largely due to inflation, cost of construction going up, and of course demand. As much as we say properties are expensive, people are buying properties
Oh yeah.
in the country, so that also impacts pricing. So it's been a challenge, people finding the right properties, either from either of these any of these challenges I've mentioned, or through people also find properties they like, but the title isn't it doesn't meet the requirements for the MRF mortgage. So that's been a major challenge, and that's part of why the MRF's off-take guarantee is there, to help structure projects that are reasonably priced to a large extent, and ensuring that proper due diligence is done on those properties, so that the housing stock is increased. I would say another thing we've recently observed is, like I said, we have 18 financial institutions on board, but we've observed that most people prefer to go through the mortgage banks. But it's important to know that the commercial banks are also adequately positioned to provide these mortgages, and they have that wide branch network. So it's advisable to explore as many opportunities as possible and not be restricted to any one financial institution.
Fantastic, fantastic. So what do we expect, in 2026? So for instance, do you buy back existing loans because it's quite affordable, and then maybe you can then speak to what we should expect in 2026 before we play your classic jam?
Yeah. So with respect to refinancing existing mortgages, that's not our focus. Reason being that refinancing existing mortgages does not allow us increase the number of mortgages in the country, because it's the same people who have already taken a mortgage coming to access the loan. So the priority is, new mortgages being originated, so that that deficit that we talk about is being addressed. With respect to what we expect in the new year, as I've stated, MRF is a 1 trillion naira program. We've raised 250 billion. We hope to be able to increase that in the coming year. MRF has also been very sensitive to markets, what's going on in the market. For example, MRF started off at 12%, 12% and with the equity contribution requirement of 20%. We listened to we listened to the market,
the voice of the
we
people.
made certain adjustments to
Yeah.
ensure that the interest rate is single digits, and the equity contribution requirement is reduced to 10%. There are a couple of other things we've picked from the markets, and we expect that within the course of the year, some of those things will. I'm not going to go into details, but within the next couple of weeks and months, some new things will be coming on board. And then I think lastly, I'll just say that one other area we've seen significant demand is non-interest mortgages, and there's plans to have MRF provide non-interest mortgages to the Muslim faithful as well.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Interesting, and unfortunately, we have run out of time. Our guest today has been Olubi Adekunbi, who is the head real estate investment. We've been discussing MREIF. If you'd like to get more information, please log on to www.mreif, that's MREIF, mreif.com. Simple as that, straightforward. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'll hand over to you, Raphael, because we will take a break, but on the other side of that break, we will play his favorite song for today.
Correct.
So shall I hand you over to you to wrap up?
What's that song?
Jimmy Cliff, you can get it if you really want.
That's right. That's lined up. We're going to do that shortly.
And next week, Lagos, Nigeria, we ask that you tune in. We'll be discussing, just Chico and I this time. We'll be discussing marriage, relationship, and finances. It's the month of love, so we'll begin to talk about love, gifting, and all sorts in the month of February.
This has been Wealth Management and You. Comes your way at 5:30 every Monday on Classic FM 97.3. Mark your calendar and join us next Monday for another exciting edition of the show. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us.
Thank you for having us, Chico. Thank you, B.
Thank you.